Knox, written by Anne Carson. About the author. Anne Carson was born on June 21st, 1950 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Carson studied classics at the University of Toronto, where she received her BA, MA, and PhD, and she graduated from the University of St. Andrews in Scotland with a diploma in classics. Since graduating, Carson has taught classics in many institutions, including, but not limited to, Princeton University and McGill University. Carson has published 20 books as of 2016. Other works from Anne Carson: Men in the Off Hours, Autobiography of Red, Glass, Irony, and God, The Beauty of the Husband, Red Doc. Knox Explained. Knox was written by Anne Carson as a eulogy for her brother, Michael, who had recently passed. The book is made up of a collection of memories that remind Carson of her brother, consisting of poetry, definitions, quotes, pieces of letters, pictures, drawings, and stamps. Most of these memories were originally glued or stapled to the pages, these raw materials representing the raw emotion and grief Carson was feeling when creating this work. Scattered throughout these materials, Carson tells us her brother's story, who he was, and how he affected the people around him. Michael's story. What we learn about Anne Carson's brother, Michael, is scattered throughout the book, not in subsequent order. Carson tells us he ran away in 1978, living under multiple aliases, using a fake passport to travel through Europe and India, and dealing drugs. Michael would barely send letters or be in contact with his mother or Carson, to the point that their mother thought he was dead. One letter he did send was when a girl named Anna, whom his widow called the love of his life, had died. Michael was devastated, but later married 2 other women. One is now his widow. After their mother died, he telephoned Carson, but he had nothing of interest to say. Every call she got from him, she cherished and studied. When Michael died in 2000, Carson didn't receive the news until 2 weeks after because his widow couldn't find her phone number. Quotes from Knox. There is nothing more to be expended on that we think. He's dead. Love cannot alter it. Words cannot add to it. No matter how I try to evoke the starry lad he was, it remains a plain, odd history. So I begin to think about history. This quote proves that Carson believes there's nothing she can write or do to tell us how wonderful her brother was. So maybe his life and history will. Autopsy is a term historians use of the eyewitnessing of data or events by the historian himself, a mode of authorial power. Whatever. I'm over it. Autopsy is a term historians use of the eyewitnessing of data or events by the historian himself, a mode of authorial power. To withhold this authorization is also powerful. My mother on her deathbed. You can have them all, just one I want. I wait. The one your brother wrote from France, you know, that winter the girl died. With this quote, Carson proves just how much their mother cherished any contact with Michael, on her deathbed asking Carson to leave her with one of his letters. My brother did not marry Anna. He married 2, that I know of, other women during those years. From this little quote, Carson shows just how little she knows about Michael, not quite sure if she knows how many women he married. For years after he left, she would glance up every time a car came spinning along the road. This quote proves how Michael's absence affected their mother, who was still hopeful he would return. I go to Copenhagen. My brother's widow gives me some old diaries she found. She was the love of his life, his widow says calmly. It was a relief not to have him dropping through every conversation like a smell of burning hair, to be honest, from my point of view. From her point of view, all desire left the world. Because our conversations were few, he phoned me maybe 5 times in 22 years. I study his sentences, the ones I remember, as if I'd been asked to translate them. In contrast to the previous quote, when Carson didn't want to talk about Michael with her mother, in this quote, Carson proves that she really missed her brother, cherishing their phone calls. Catullus wrote Poem 101 for his brother who died in the Trod. Nothing at all is known of the brother except his death. Carson throughout the book defines this Latin poem from Catullus. His brother seems to be similar to Carson's in that they don't know much about them, which is most likely why it's a large part of the book. Years later, when he began to deal drugs, I got the old sinking feeling, not for the criminality of it, not for the danger, but that look. No one knew him. He was the one who was old. Now that fortune tore you from me, you poor, wrongly brother, wrongly taken from me. Now still anyway this. What a distance mood of parents handed down as the sad gift for burials, accept. Soaked with tears of a brother and into forever, brother, farewell and farewell. While I swept my porch and bought apples and sat by the window in the evening with the radio on, his death came wandering slowly towards me across the sea. Since Carson received the news of her brother's death 2 weeks late, the slow pace of it is being described as wandering. Also, because this news is so out of the blue, Carson describes herself doing normal, everyday things before receiving it. You were, you are. Mary Jo Bang. Mary Jo Bang wrote the poem You Were, You Are as an elegy for her son who had passed. She writes about both the ups and the downs of her relationship with him. But even during the dysfunctional parts of their relationship, Bang always knew her son was good deep down, and she always loved him. Quotes. Fragile like a child is fragile, destined not to be forever, destined to become other to mother. This quote shows that children aren't children forever. They grow up into their own person, different from their parents, or their parents' ideas, which is sometimes hard for a mother to understand. Thinking about how it was to talk to you, how sometimes it was wonderful and sometimes it was awful. Bang describes talking to her son in this quote, sometimes good and sometimes bad, a normal and healthy relationship. How drugs, when drugs were, undid the good almost entirely, but not entirely, because good could always be seen. In this quote, her son's use of drugs weakened the ties between them, but Bang knew, deep down, he was always good. I loved you, I love you, you were, and you are. Life is experience, and it's all so simple. Experience is the chair we sit on. Even having a weakened relationship, Bang still endlessly loved her son. Comparisons. Both were written as dedications to dead relatives. They contain both the ups and downs of the author's relationship with the subject of the poem or book. The subjects of the poem and book were both into drugs. Both of the authors, despite the downs of their relationships with the subjects, always loved their relative. Both of the subjects take their own path in life, away from their family. Themes. Individualism. Both subjects of the poem and book want to be their own person. Michael runs away from home and lives without contact with his family. Bang comes to the conclusion that her son won't be a child forever. He was destined to become different from her. Grief. Both authors are writing in dedication to a relative who has died, reflecting on their relationship with them. Kinship. Both of the authors reflect on their relationship with their family. Carson reflects on the relationship with her brother and the relationship between him and their mother. Bang reflects on her relationship with her son. Discussion questions. 1. Anne Carson tries not to idealize her dead brother's life in order to tell his true story. Why do you think some people who write elegies romanticize the person who passed and their life? 2. Do you believe Carson would have created the same book for her brother if he hadn't run away and was more present in her life? Why or why not? 3. Even after saying she was glad that her mother had stopped talking about her brother, Carson continued to analyze and remember her talks with him over the phone. Why do you think she did this?